Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stop D Theft podcast. This is our first episode, and we want to bring you more stories of what's happening in the D theft arena. Today, we have Miss Yvonne Williams. She is scientist, um, a resident of Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. And she's going to today tell us her story about what happened to her, how were her properties, how was her property stolen. And so we're just going to just jump into it and um, begin to really break down and help people to understand how D theft actually happens. One second. Sorry about that.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're gonna basically bring you these stories and help you to understand what happens, how does D theft occur, what is D theft, and why it has it become something that everyone is talking about now. So without further ado, our guest is here. Her name is Miss Yvonne Williams. She's actually a member of the People's Coalition to Stop D Theft. And let's begin. So Yvonne, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. So let's just jump in and please tell us your story. Tell us who you are. Let's start there. Who are you?
I'm a, I'm a scientist and I'm also a real estate investor. I have my own real estate investment company that I started in 2015. And we wanted to increase Black and Brown home ownership in New York City and in New Jersey. And we wanted to make sure we created luxury quality homes at low prices that was affordable for
Okay.
everyone. And in
So,
2020, okay, go
mhm,
ahead.
go ahead. Say
No, go
what you were
ahead.
going to say. Go ahead. Okay.
Oh, so I
So
told
in 2015, you start this business. You're
right.
a scientist, and you decide that you're gonna, buy properties and create luxury homes, right? For
Yeah.
Black and Brown people. And how did you come to acquire these properties?
Okay. Well, it was for everyone because you can't discriminate. But we wanted to make sure that we created a level playing field where everyone's offer was considered, and there was no discrimination. And we didn't base it
Mhm.
based solely on your offer. We took several things into consideration, and we felt that would level the playing field. And what happened was is that in my early 20s, I actually bought my first home. I was actually the first person in my family over three generations that bought a property, and it was rather inexpensive. And then over the years, the property values grew, and I decided to take some money out of my property. And my husband, he also decided to take money out of his pension, and we used that money to buy properties and renovate them. And that's how we came about.
Okay, so that's how it all came about. Okay, so how did you find yourself in a situation where um, you were dealing with a deed theft situation or your properties were stolen? What happened? How did it first begin?
Well, it actually began in 2015, but we didn't know it. And it came to a head in 2021. So we got caught up in some type of racketeering that we did
Hmm.
not even know existed. And we had purchased three properties in 2021. And unbeknownst to us at the time, there was this one lender that was using smaller lenders to cover for them. And they were committing fraud against the borrowers with the intent of
Mm.
stealing the property in a foreclosure action. Again, we obviously weren't aware of that. But after investigating, I learned a lot. I discovered a lot, and I was able to uncover everything that they did.
Well, before we go there, how did you even meet the lender? Who introduced you to the lender? Was it like Wells Fargo or Bank of America?
Right. So it was an investment. We were investors. So they were actually considered commercial loans. So we went through a mortgage broker, and we had one mortgage broker because we always thought that was the way, have one person with your information. It protects you and doesn't put your information out there. So there was an associate of ours named Wayne Green, and he had a company, Prime Real Estate Consultants, located in Queens. And we went through Wayne for funding for the purchasing to purchase the 3 properties in 2021. So he used another lender, another mortgage broker, Saturn Mortgage, Peter Motor, and they came up with these lenders that they told us were legitimate lenders. And that's how we came across
Wow.
the lender.
Okay, so it started with Wayne Green. So Wayne
Yeah.
Green basically was the mortgage broker. And the people who he had been doing business with, those were the people who you got the loans through.
Well, Wayne is a real estate consultant. So he helps you get loans, he helps you get properties. He used Saturn Mortgage and Peter Motor. They were the actual mortgage brokers. And yes, they set us up with lenders.
Okay, let me ask you, when this happened
Mm-hmm.
and you found out that you were defrauded, did you ever bring this information to Wayne?
Yes,
Okay, and
I
what
did.
was his reaction?
Well, I didn't bring all the information to Wayne. I just brought some of the information when the lenders had threatened me. I told Wayne about that part. And then when we found out about the foreclosure, I went to Wayne and I told him about the foreclosure paperwork because it was sent to another address that was not ours because they committed fraud on service. And Wayne told me to just ignore the paperwork because they didn't serve me properly.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Which was
Oh,
correct.
okay. Go ahead. Say that again.
That was incorrect. That was not the
Mm-hmm.
correct. Even though we were served improperly, the proper thing to do was to notify the court of the improper service so the court could dismiss the case. Ignoring it would have just got
Oh,
our property taken.
right. It caused it would go into default. Correct.
Right.
Okay. So with Wayne, okay. So now that um the- Wayne has introduced you to the funders, you have the loans, um, and now what happens next?
We close. We submit certain documents. As a corporation, you have to provide specific documents. I provided them myself. I was hands-on. I made sure we had all the paperwork. I went through my attorney. She contacted them. Everything was above board as far as I know.
Hmm. So when
You
you
know,
went in, when you went in and you got your mortgage, it's time to close. What happens at closing? What goes on the day of closing? What happens?
well, the day of closing, you should just have to go to closing with your certified funds to close, your closing costs. You sign your documents. The seller's there, the buyer's there, both sets of attorneys are there, the bank's attorney is there, and the title agent is there. You're
So
signing.
all of these people were there on the day of your closing. But what happened at your closing that caused so much alarm?
Well, prior to the closing, the weekend before, I had told my attorney she had sent me the an invoice and it had the mansion tax up there. And I told her, I said, we're not paying the mansion tax. It's a 6-family property. So, I went back and forth with her and she should have known better because she had been in real estate for 20 years at that point. And the day of the closing, she was like, okay, we got it resolved. The title company said there's no mansion tax. So we went to the bank. We got a $235,000 money order, which had been increased while we was at the closing. We were told that we needed more. We went to the closing. We sat down. I'm signing documents, and then the mansion tax pops back up. And we had a crazy discussion about it. And I'm telling them the property is not a 2-family, and there's no mansion tax. And I was told, okay, by my attorney, to go ahead and sign the documents, and we'll get the money back once everything is registered because the state's not going to charge us a mansion tax for a property that shouldn't have a mansion tax. So we signed the documents after reviewing them. She gets up to give the title closer the document so he can notarize them and give us a copy. She goes and makes a copy of our ID, mine and Leon's, my partner. She comes back, gives him the copy of the ID, gives him the documents. Within 5 minutes, he gets up to leave the closing. So then we got up and we stood in front of him and we're like, she's like, okay, with our copies. And he says, oh, I don't have a copy for you. Okay. She says, okay, let me make copies then. And she reaches her hand out. He tells her, no, I was told to make sure you don't have any copies. And you have to call the attorneys. And she
Who was this that said that?
The title closer, Paul Intalandi.
Wow. Okay, so when they say that they're not going to give you the copies, then what happens next?
My attorney just says, okay, we get out the way and let him leave with our documents.
So
she's going to call
for everyone who's listening, so this is classic case of deed theft, deed fraud, of what is happening. So she's at her closing, the title company, and after she signs everything, hands over her money to pay for her property, the title company gets up and aggressively says that they are not giving her copies of her documents. Her attorney asked for copies. However, the title company refuses to give any copies. So now she's in a situation where the title company is trying to make off or is making off with her documents without giving them to her and her attorney. What happens next, Yvonne?
Or we're leaving the closing and she's saying she's going to call. So, we just listened to her and believed her because, she had been our attorney for years. The next day, early in the morning, 9:30 a.m., she's emailing them with me on the email and she's like, your title closer did not have a copy of the documents for my client. And the bank's attorney admit, yes, they say, yes, we'll send it to you once we post-close the file. So my attorney didn't say anything about that. So, okay, I didn't say anything. Then by 3 p.m. that day, this is August 3rd of 2021, by 3 p.m., she's emailing my attorney, she's emailing the bank's attorney. She's saying, we need proof of the payoff to the previous lender. And the bank's attorney comes back and they say, okay, we have a problem with these documents and we're not giving you anything. We're not giving you proof of the payoff until you have Yvonne give us new documents that says she's the sole shareholder of this company.
Wow, so after you... Go ahead.
They said they didn't have Leon on the deal. Leon's 50% owner. And they were like, we don't have him on this deal. So we need documents that says she's the only owner. And the attorney responds and she says, no, we gave you the correct documents. And
so they knew all along that you and Leon were both part of this deal. However, after the title company just leaves, they try to change all of the terms on the back end once you are not in possession of the actual closing documents.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, it's the end of the day, and we eventually get our documents back 4 days later, or alleged documents. We allegedly got the documents back 4 days later.
And what happened when you got the documents back after that? Were they the documents that you signed off on?
Okay, well, the documents they were asking us to change were our bylaws. They wanted me to change the corporation's bylaws and say I was sole shareholder, and that was it. President and sole shareholder. That's what they wanted me to state. We never did that. So we got the documents back 4 days later. It was my attorney just disappeared on me, which I didn't even realize because I'm so busy trying to get my documents. Because I signed these documents, I have not seen them, and I don't know what they're doing to them. So I'm just like in panic mode trying to get my documents. So 4 days later, I speak to the managing partner of the mortgage company, Insula Capital Group, and his name was Ed Stock. So they get him on the phone with me. They call me, and then they just transfer me to him. And he tells me, he tries to make it seem like we walked out the closing without our documents, whatever. And then he threatens me before he hangs up, and he tells me he's glad I'm cooperating because he would hate to see something happen to me.
Wow.
So,
So after he makes those threats, your attorney's now missing. What? How do you move forward?
well, they sent us the documents right after that. When I got the documents, I didn't open them or anything. I just forwarded them to my attorney because in my
Hmm.
mind, she had to look them over. She was the attorney. She went over everything. She knows what's good and what's not good, and she'll know what's been if anything has been altered. So I sent them to her, and I didn't hear back from her. So I assumed that that the documents were good.
Hmm.
So I didn't tell Leon about the threat until like 2 days later because it was heavy on my mind. And then I decided to look into the company. I saw their pictures online, and then I went to him and I said, "Look, we can't keep this loan because these people threatened me on Friday. I feel uncomfortable now. I feel this is like some mob type money laundering situation. We need to get our property out of this. So we need to refinance the property immediately. We can't stay in this loan." So at that
Hmm.
point, Brooklyn loan, I didn't take any construction funds. All I did was pay the mortgage and tried to move forward. But
Hmm.
as far as anything else, and I tried to get loans, we tried to refinance, and I had an 800 credit score. And
Hmm.
everyone was like, "We'll refinance it for you," and then they would disappear. Like over the next year, that's what happened to me. And I just kept moving forward, trying to make everything work. And I was hitting brick walls, but it never dawned on me that someone committed fraud against me, and that's what's going on
Hmm.
here. And I didn't discover that
So
until 2024.
so what was the actual fraud that you discovered?
They had actually forged my signature. My signature has been forged 100 times. The lenders on the Queens property, the Brooklyn property, and the Jersey property was always loan funder. They hid behind other
Hmm.
lenders. We call them pretender lenders. It's like a straw buyer, but a straw lender. So
Hmm.
that was so they had unclean hands. So I never knew loan funder was a lender on my property. So they was a lender on all my properties, and they was waiting to make
Right.
a move against me because they had changed the loan terms to state that if I ever have a problem on one property, they could seize all my properties. And
Wait,
it
they
did not
changed
matter
the
who.
terms. They
They
changed.
took those loan
Mhm.
documents. They took the loan documents. They created fraudulent corporation documents. They removed Leon from the corporation. They named me sole shareholder. They forged my signature on multiple documents. They changed the
Mhm.
terms of they changed my address of where I could be located. They changed everything. Those were completely new documents. They created fraudulent corporation documents. They created fraudulent closing documents. I mean, they went all out on the fraud.
So what made you even look in to see how did you become aware that there was fraud happening in 2024? How did you find out all of this? What made this become something that you would look into?
Well, because what happened on August 2nd, 2021 at the closing, that always bothered me.
Mhm.
That always bothered me. So when we got the attorney for the foreclosure, I told her, I said, "Look, something happened at that closing. We need to go over the documents page by page together, and we need to figure out where the fraud is because I'm pretty sure there's fraud here." And she just kept blowing me off. And then in January 2024, I looked at the documents myself and discovered the fraud.
So you looked at the documents yourself and then you found out that there was fraud.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay.
Mhm.
So now moving along, when you find out the fraud, what do you do next?
Well, the first thing I found out was about the forgery. And then I just kept going over the documents and I started investigating everything. Um, I learned that my corporation's biennial statement had been altered in 2021, which I did not know at the time. So they had this man named Shaw Greenwald and his wife Tammy Greenwald go on the state's website and create and alter my corporation's documents so that when they filed the foreclosure action and the state was notified, the state would never notify me. The state would notify them. So the state was supposed to notify me when a foreclosure action started against my company. And the state
Mhm.
failed to do that because my information had been changed by these people back in 2021. So that was the first thing
Wow.
I did. I investigated them. I started looking into who they were. And it linked me to my New Jersey properties.
Mhm.
And then it linked me to
So
the. Mhm.
so when the foreclosures happen,
Hmm.
How did the foreclosures occur? Was it a situation where you couldn't pay your loans, or was it just that they just foreclosed on you? What happened?
Well, what happened was they stole my money in New Jersey, which they knew was going to cause me to stop being able to pay my mortgage. So they stole my money and they forced the foreclosure by stealing my money.
Hmm.
So
How did
then they
they
found,
steal your money?
so
How
in
did
New
they
Jersey,
steal your money?
so when you do the construction loans for commercial property, the loan is a fix and flip loan. And what they do is they reimburse you after you spend your money. They reimburse you back your money because they're supposed to pay for the construction costs. So they waited until we paid for the work on the property, and then when we submitted the draw request, they were like, "Oh no, we're taking this money and we're putting it into Brooklyn."
They
So
said they
that's
were
what they
taking the
were
money
making
and putting
moves
it
for,
with. Wait, your
to
voice faded
Brooklyn.
out. You said your
Oh, they
voice faded out.
okay.
They, they said that you said that they, after you paid for the loan, you did the work, or you paid for the work to be done, and then you went to be reimbursed. What did they
Right.
say to you?
They said that we're going to take the money because you owe money on the property in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay. So then instead of releasing the funds, they basically withheld those funds, which then triggered you not to be able to pay for all of your bills,
All
because
of our
now
bills.
the money that was supposed to come back was missing, wasn't there. Okay,
Right.
I get it. And then that caused a trickle down effect, which basically caused all of the properties to go into foreclosure.
Right. Well,
Okay.
the way at the closing, they had false documents signed by the seller that said the property was a two-family. So he never registered it. So when I went to register my property to do the work, I had a block. I had a brick wall. I couldn't move forward because of all the fraudulent documents from the closing. So I had to fix all of that. I didn't know that at the time. And what that did was that ran my money out because I'm paying a $10,000 a month mortgage for a year. And at no point could I start the construction because the city was saying documents were not correct. So I had to fix the documents. And that's what
Mhm.
they filed false documents against me. So they were like, they had put all these things in place to cause me to falter. But because I
Right.
didn't falter within a year, it took a little longer than they expected. But once I had gotten sick, I did start to falter because again, I wasn't well, and they had put blocks in place for me to not succeed, and that included the refinancing. Remember, once they threatened me, I tried to refinance, and no
Hmm.
lender, every lender was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna lend to you." It's New York City. Everyone wants to lend here. It was Brooklyn, and my credit score was 800, and I had a portfolio, a great portfolio. So of course they wanted to lend to us, and then they would just disappear. And what we later learned is that Loan Funder backs a lot of small lenders in New York, which we did not know that. That is stuff that I have learned in the past couple of years. So those lenders were
Right.
told
So,
to me.
hmm wow. So let's delve into the world of lending, right? And what should other people who may, be looking to invest, or maybe investors, what should they be aware of when they're trying to get a loan, or they're trying to buy multiple properties, such as yourself? What is it that they should look out for?
Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to research the lender. Research the lender, read reviews. I did do that. That's not going to tell you everything, but at least it will tell you something. And when you see
Hmm.
a bad review, don't always dismiss it. Listen to what they're saying, pay attention. All you have
Now,
to be hands.
is there another way
Go ahead.
that people could go about? So say, with all of these little banks, is that a
Mhm.
good way to go? Is there another way that people can, build their real estate portfolio without going through these small banks that are backed by banks like Loan Funder, which we now know? Are you alleging that Loan Funder is like a fraudulent lender?
So they're not backed by Loan Funder. That would mean that Loan Funder is giving them the money to lend. They're not backed by Loan Funder. Those little banks, Insular Capital Group and LevCap, they never lent us any money. They were just a front. Loan funder always lent the money, even on the
So,
document. Go ahead.
so what I'm saying is, if those other banks came through Loan Funder,
Hmm.
is it almost as if this is like a catch and kill type of thing? Meaning, people go in to Loan Funder, these other front banks are there, but they're all connected. So it's not like you're really dealing with the independent entity. They're all operating together. Is that
No, so
correct?
is
No?
it's
Okay.
it's like if you had your own institution, I had one, and let's say someone else had them. We have three institutions, A, B, and C. We're
Hmm.
all claiming to be lenders. We want people to borrow from us because we're going to make money. But the truth is, we really don't have any money. We have this big lender behind us that's saying, I want you to front like you're the lender. I'm going to really be the lender, and you're just going to get a fee. They never lent money. They were never the lender on my
Oh,
clients. They lied. It's like it's fraud in the what is it called when you lost someone into fraud?
what is it called when you what?
Fraud in the inducement. It's fraud in the inducement.
Hmm.
They come to you. So Insula came to me and said, "Hey, we're gonna give you this money. These are the terms of the loan, and it's gonna be 1 year, and this is what it's gonna cost you." I said, "Okay, great." I agreed to it with Insula Capital Group, and then in New Jersey,
Hmm.
I agreed to the terms of Cap because I didn't want the same lender. But in the back, it was always loan funder pretending because loan funder wanted to get me into a loan.
Right.
Funder was always the lender on all three of my properties from day one.
Even though you thought that there were other lenders involved, it was always Loan Funder.
Loan
So
funder.
that's what you mean by fraud on the inducement, meaning they came to you first, and when you're talking to them, you're thinking these are the lenders, but all along it's Loan Funder, right?
Right. All with loan funder. Loan funder was always
Right.
the
So
lender. They did that.
right. So that's sort of the way I'm hearing it is that Loan Funder is committing fraud along with these other front guys, right? Because
Correct.
even though they're coming to you, they don't have any money. They're all they're all representing Loan Funder without you knowing they're representing Loan Funder, right?
Correct.
They make their money when you sign paperwork. However, they had no money to give you in the first place. Everything that was coming had to come by way of Loan Funder, right?
Correct.
So in this instance, what I'm asking is so that people do not find themselves in a situation, is there another legitimate way to go about taking out loans? Like, would it be better to try to go through a Chase or Wells Fargo? Do they do commercial lending?
But no, they don't lend like that. They do residential lending. And while some lenders may do commercial lending where you have to put down 20%, very few of them do fixer uppers. So these are the loans if
Okay.
you're in the business, you're going through these companies that are doing that. And they're giving, I mean, they're giving great terms. They're like 90, 100, 90% on purchase, 100% on construction. So they're saying they're going to foot the whole construction bill. Or you coming in with is 10%. It's really idyllic, if you don't have deep pockets.
Right.
And it's
Okay.
only and it's their bridge loans for short term. The short term loans.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So after all of this happens with Loan Funder, you find out
And
all of this
so the
fraud.
other way to protect yourself is the title company. People need to be more involved. Oh, okay, you're breaking up.
See, people need to be more involved with their title company, you said?
They need to be more involved with their transactions from point A to point Z.
Okay, so you
You
need to
have to
do like
be because
so you should do your research on your title companies, who the lenders are.
well, you have your attorney hires the title company. So always make sure your attorney does that. Make sure your attorney hires the title company, not the lender, not the seller. Even if they offer you a discount, don't accept that. Go over the title report page by page. Make sure you understand everything. And when you go to a
Did your
closing, don't let anyone. Go ahead.
did your lawyer ever resurface? I know you said she went missing at some point. when you were
Right.
requesting your documents? Did she ever resurface?
Well, I sent her the documents when I received them on that Friday, 4 days later, and I told her to let me know if everything's okay or if anything's wrong. She didn't say anything was wrong, so I assumed everything was good. And in 2024, I contacted her and told her, look, there was a lot of fraud that happened at that closing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, the forged signatures, did you look at the documents when I sent them to you? Now, she said she did, but she was lying because
Right.
first she said, I'm like, did you know anything about the documents? Yeah, those were you and Leon's signature. Remember, she's been representing us for decades. She know
Right.
my signature. And she said that wasn't your signature. So when I asked you in 2021 to look, you didn't say anything. So that means you never looked in 2021. So that means you were slacking. It put me in a
So
bad position here.
right. So now you find out they forged all of these documents. They basically
Correct.
overnight, in a sense, since your closing at your closing, you never received any documents. So the fix was already in at the closing table. Would you say that? Is that what you're saying?
Before the closing table. Because before the closing, they went to the Department of State and altered my corporation's documents. They already knew they were going to commit fraud against me. How do you, let me tell you something. When it comes to corporations, you have, the Secretary of State is served for corporations. Whenever you sue a corporation, you have to serve the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State notifies the corporation. The only reason you're going to alter a document with the Secretary of State is if you intend to foreclose. How
Mm-hmm.
could they foreclose on June 29th, 2021? We closed on August 2nd, 2021. So that meant in June 2021, they were planning on creating conditions to force a foreclosure and make sure that I was never notified so I could never show up in court. That's what they did in June of 2021. We closed in
And
August of
this is
2021.
and this is the way they move in order to get your properties free and clear. So they basically just rob you of your properties. They take possession without having to pay anything or putting out any money. So they make money across the board because you never
Right,
receive the funds.
right. So they're getting the property basically at a way reduced price because I came up with the down payment. I paid the closing costs. And now they got my property for way less than what it was worth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they basically did. They were trying to steal all of my properties. That's
So
how they
where are
had
you
it set
now?
up. They
Where are you
well,
now
the property.
in this ordeal?
So they stole my property at 53 Madison Street. We're in the appellate court right now fighting, with plans on going to the Court of Appeals because they're lying. The judges in the appellate court are actually lying on the record and committing fraud. The judges.
Right. So talk about that. What's going on with these judges in the court?
So in the Supreme Court, we had Judge Nappel, and we showed Judge Nappel the fraud. The bank's attorneys admitted to forging my signature on the documents that they gave Judge Nappel, and he still gave them my property. So we went to the appellate court. In the appellate court, we actually perfected early. It was the motion against Judge Nappel. And the appellate court judges started moving funny, which was very shocking. And Judge Miller, who sits on the Commission for Judicial Conduct, he also sits
Mm-hmm.
on the appellate court. So in the commission, he protected Judge Nappel from us, and they found nothing wrong with what Judge Nappel did against us. And then he came into the appellate court and started ruling on my motions. Started blocking my statutory rights, which he didn't have a right to do. Started stopping us from filing by giving the plaintiff 40 to 60 days to reply to him. We had asked the appellate court judges to disclose financial disclosures and affidavits stating that they were not invested in Loan Funder. Instead of them doing that, they had Judge Miller come in with 3 other judges and start knocking out our appeals, saying they were untimely, dismissing them. It was crazy. They dismissed like 4 or 5 appeals, pulled them out of motions that had them protected, and then they lied on the record and said we were untimely. And then in the appellate court, in order to make it to the Court of Appeals, the judges have to dissent. So when the judges rule together, you don't have a right to the Court of Appeals. All 4 judges ruled together. And they were all
Wow.
lying.
So that was the way that they were blocking your access to go to the Court of Appeals. This is big.
Yeah, that's how they block direct access to the to the Court of Appeals. And that's the things that we have to know. We have to know when the judges start moving a specific way, why they moving that way. So you have 4 independent judges that were supposed to review my documents, and they all supposed to come to their decisions independently, and then they come together and put them together to be reviewed. You have 4 judges all come to the same determination, and the determinations were all false. They were lies.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's alarming. Appellate court judges,
right?
Especially with all of the appellate court is over.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you.
And not only that, the appellate court was aware that these attorneys committed fraud on the court, and that Judge Appel also committed fraud. So for them to strike my appeals down when they know that crimes were being committed, that just goes to show you what their mindset are. They up in there, they protecting each other. The judges are protecting the judges, and they protecting fraud. And how are we supposed to win when the judges are lying and cheating?
I'm sorry, my mic muted by mistake. Yeah, excuse me, my mic had muted. No, the everything that's happening in the court and that you're experiencing in the court, what is it that we all can do to further support you in this fight? Being that the judges are not disclosing, their financial interests, they're basically attacking you. What is it that we, the people, can do to get behind you to help you with this?
Well, I think the people need to show up, and it's not just for me; it's for every New Yorker. If you
Mm-hmm.
ever think you're ever going to need justice, or even if you don't, just the fact that we all should be entitled to justice. I think we're having a rally at the appellate court on Tuesday. If everyone could show up, that would be great. Maybe write letters, sign petitions, because we need to get the judges removed because they're committing fraud and they're stealing properties. And that's the only way we're going to get justice. The judges are committing fraud against us.
Right.
And the courts is over criminal, housing, family. The appellate court rules 6. The second department is in control of 6 counties, courthouses in 6 counties, and these judges are lying. Just think about
what are those counties that they're in?
Well, the second department, 45 Monroe in Brooklyn, New York, they're the second department. They're over Brooklyn. They're over Queens. They're over Nassau County, Suffolk County. They're over Richmond County, which is Staten Island, and they're over Westchester County. That's 6 counties.
Wow, that's huge.
That is huge.
That encompasses a lot. So those 22 judges that sit on the appellate court, basically, if you have to appeal to them, they're basically overseeing all of these jurisdictions. And from just listening to what you're telling us and how this all happens, that this seems like this is really a crime syndicate, meaning that the judges, the attorneys, the title companies, everybody's in on it, right? So it's not something that's happening by happenstance, but this seems like these are orchestrated schemes. Is that what you were? Is that how you feel about this?
Yes, it is orchestrated. And there's 22 judges that sit in the appellate court, and 11 of them have made bad rulings against us. That's half the appellate court.
Wow. And do you have to still go?
I mean, come on.
Do you have to go back before? So now, even though you're still in the appellate court, do you have to go before any of those 11 that's left?
Well,
Are any of those 11 going to hear your case?
They should not be on my case again, but they may pop up, because until you perfect the brief, there should be no judge sitting on your case. So until your brief is perfected, which is why you're in the appellate court, you're supposed to get rolling judges. Like who's ever available, they ask them, look at this motion. She's asking for an adjournment for this, or this person's asking for that. That's the situation. But until you're ready to make decisions on something, there should never be a single judge sitting on your case. It's always a panel in the appellate court. So we have to file a motion for leave to appeal to the Court of Appeals. We're waiting for them to decide that. We asked for a motion to re-argue for our perfected brief because they destroyed that. We're just basically protecting ourselves and creating a paper trail, which is what we need to do. We're waiting for the disclosure motion to be decided. We asked for the judges to disclose. They haven't disclosed yet, and they don't even have the right to deny disclosure. And if they do, they have to step
Mm-hmm.
off the case because they're automatically disqualified. Because
Right.
then we have to assume that you are involved since you won't disclose.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so on November 25th, at what time is this happening? Is the
At noon,
so on
at noon,
on November 25th at
at 12.
noon at
Mhm.
12 p.m. there will be a rally protest in front of the appellate court
Yes.
to demand judges give disclosure and that they would stop the fraud on the court. What we're looking to do is really open up the court, the lens of the court, so that people can begin to see what's happening inside of these courtrooms. We almost never hear people talk about the appellate court or any judge, right? There's sort of a thing of when a judge makes a ruling, people automatically just fall in line and accept it. Sometimes people fight back, but the majority of the time, people feel helpless and that is nothing that they can do. This is that type of situation. However, we know that we are our own liberators and that when we fight, we win. So we have to continue to fight and push forward. So on November 25th, we hope to see as many people as can come out to the rally and stand with us. Also, you're standing for yourself because many people who are in the same predicament who may hear this interview, hear what happened to Yvonne, this may be your same story, right? And there is strength in numbers. And we have to begin to move as community, right? Not as in silos where there are individual cases being fought, because if you start to look and compare what's happening, you will be amazed at what you find. Even in Yvonne's case and so many other cases, you find that the same lenders, the same notaries, the same attorneys, the same judges are doing this to people on a rolling basis. So this is
Right.
not something that is just happening by happenstance, but we're calling it a crime syndicate. New York State is uh, has found itself in a situation to where it is committing fraud on its citizens, and something needs to be done about it. And so, thank you, Yvonne, for taking the time to let everyone hear your story. I'm sure you'll come back again and we'll, take a deeper dive where we can talk about what happened, maybe in pieces so that people can really get and understand and grasp what that is. You can follow us at Stop D Theft on Instagram. It's Stop D Theft on YouTube, Stop D Theft on
Mhm.
Facebook. And you can also visit us at www.stopdtheft.org. We meet every Monday on Zoom, and we meet in person every third Monday of the month. If you follow us, we'll update the description to give you a little bit more information if you want to plug into us. And if you need help, just reach out to us and someone to be sure to follow up with you. So, Yvonne, I want to give you the last word. Is there anything that you want to leave our viewers with?
Well, I think that this fight is everyone's fight because we're fighting for justice for everyone, not just me or any member of the group. The courts are lying and cheating and stacking the deck against us, and we can't beat the judges. And so we need to come together. And I think we need more than just we need the judges investigated. We need the second department shut down completely. People houses need to be
Mm,
returned because they're taken in fraud. Because at the end of the day, if the judges have no one over them and they're just out here willing freely and taking our properties, I mean, there's no one here to protect us because there's no one above the judges.
mhm.
There's no one above the judges. So we all need to show up. It's not just for me, it's for everyone.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your final word that we all need to come together and we need to do something about these judges because there's no one over the judges and they need to be held accountable. Again,
Absolutely.
we are our own liberators, and when we fight, we win. And see you all Tuesday at 12 p.m. at the appellate court.
Okay. Thank you, Evangeline.
You're welcome.
Okay. Oh, she's taking it.